Välkommen alla sammen. Taking a little stroll here in the park. And I thought I'd make a video about the 3 stages of paganism that everybody has to go through. I kind of didn't want to make this video because these 3 stages, everyone has to progress through them at their own pace. You can't rush through these. Everybody needs to go at their own pace. So I don't want to give people these 3 stages because I don't want people to progress through them quicker than they should. So the 3 stages, and this is for the beginners, by the way. My channel is definitely not a channel for the beginners. The channel here is more advanced topics, and the people already, all of my subscribers, you guys are great, and you are definitely not beginners. You are already at this 3rd stage, most of you. You have a good understanding and great knowledge, and you ask great questions, and I learn things from you guys all the time too. So this video is for the beginners, but just know that you shouldn't progress through these stages faster than what is right for you. So first stage, this is when you just get into paganism. This is when you read stories about the Norse gods. This is when you just go into it like with a childhood like excitement, like, yes, Vikings and shit, we believe in Thor and Odin, we're gonna die and go to Valhalla and Ragnarok and things like that. So that is the first stage, and everyone must go through this stage. But after that, you eventually turn 5 years old and you realize that these myths aren't real. These weren't real events that people actually believed happened. They just defy the laws of nature. A child can figure that out. Some people have called themselves pagan for their whole lives and they have not progressed past this first stage, but you really have to. You know, don't rush through this stage. Everyone needs to go through this stage. I went through this stage. This is exactly what I went through when I was a kid, and this is exactly how they would have went through this stage in ancient times too. Kids would have been told these stories from the days that they were born, but they would not have understood them. They would not have understood the deeper meaning. They would have started to just enjoy the stories, just like we enjoy, you know, myths about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and things like that when we're young. So don't rush through this phase, even though a child in ancient times would have gotten through this phase by the time they were about 7 years old or something like that. A lot of us come into this religion as adults, so don't rush through this phase, and really enjoy yourself here, because this is everybody has to go through this. The second stage is when you realize that our myths are symbolic. They represent certain forces of nature and the universe and our own bodies and the cosmos and things like that. This is the second stage, and it's very important to go through this. Don't rush through this one either. This is very important. I was in this stage probably from the time I was, 10 years old. Probably 10-15 years I was in this stage, when you realize that these myths weren't actual literal events that people believed happened, but symbolic. But then you start to think of yourself, you start to have doubts. If these myths are symbolic, what is this? Is this even a religion? Are we atheists? If the myths are symbolic and gods represent things in nature, are we atheists actually? Were the Norse atheists? So, like I said, don't rush through this stage. This is normal about growing up, going through your teenage years and wondering about life, and if there is God, if there is spirits, if there is any higher calling like that. Everyone has to go through this stage, and again, in ancient times, the youth, probably the teenagers, would have gone through this stage too. But then, finally, you do eventually get to this 3rd stage, and you ask yourself, were our ancestors atheists since they thought the myths were symbolic? Hell no, they were not atheists. When you really start to get full understanding of the myths, you can see that our ancestors believed in all kinds of spiritual entities. They believed in different dimensions, afterlives, spirits and everything, and just the animist nature, belief of spirits in the trees, in the forests, in rocks, in inanimate objects. They believe in spirits in everything. And yes, they absolutely 100% believed in certain spiritual entities that we call today gods. God is not the right word because that word just has a bad reputation and a poor misunderstanding of what it actually is these days. But yes, they believed in gods. I don't like to call them gods. I like to use the words deity better, but they absolutely believed in certain spiritual entities that were worshipped as gods. And what these spiritual entities are, of course, you can follow my channel. I have a whole playlist as to what the gods and different deities represent. But this is the third stage of paganism. And then you really start to understand paganism. What we have been taught about religion is basically just monotheism: Christianity, Judaism, Islam. And this is how we look at religion, that these crazy events are real and there's a big God watching over all of us all the time. This is not what paganism is about. Paganism is about, it's animism. Animism is the basic, a human belief. We were all animists at one point, and we are slowly starting to get back to this. Just the belief that there are spiritual entities all around us. In this park here, there are spiritual entities everywhere, and pretty much everywhere you are. There are spiritual beings everywhere around us, everywhere we go. Some of those you can refer to as gods if you want, but again, I prefer the word deity. So most of you guys know this watching my channel, but for the beginners, take your time. Don't go through these stages too quickly. Enjoy yourself and really progress at your own pace. So that's all I have to say for today. Vi ses nästa gång.